we have some 5D collective channeled guidance. But I'm going to move away and read something to you. So keep an eye on the cards. No, hold on. This is Healing Trauma and PTSD Super Summit. And it's called It's Not Your Fault, Why Childhood Trauma Shapes You and How to Break Free. And it's a summit that brings together 45 experts. And they talk about how to reorganize the brain to calm the nervous system and overcome trauma, breaking the chains, transforming life after trauma and PTSD, revolutionizing trauma and addiction treatment with the felt sense polyvagal model, how an unhealed betrayal impacts your health, work, and relationships, overcoming trauma grief, how to release trauma and access the expanded self, integrative medicine and nutrition for complex trauma, high sensitivity and trauma, an inextricable link, addiction, a normal response to trauma, and much, much more. I might be registering, I'm deciding. And on that note, as Patrick Tian points out, no magic wands. So self-help, great to add. Summits, information, great to add. Getting educated, great to add. He has a video on the 6 pitfalls of healing from childhood trauma or something like that. And the first is you can be educated, you can know all this stuff, great. But you are going to want to have the ability to consistently work with those who can help you to stay on track with that healing journey. Because your trigger is a pattern. It is not something that is snap and done. So you can get educated, but you're going to, again, need that group or community and a official good therapist, or at the very least, somebody who is trauma-informed, somatic-informed. The reality is people take not seriously the journey that is to heal from something that you began life with. And I'm not saying it because there are not people that take it seriously. There are. In fact, one of our lovely recent added bonuses to my resources that I always come and share with you is the lady, I don't remember her name, but she's on YouTube. What I wish I would have known before I began trauma therapy. And she mentions EMDR to find the loop where it's stuck or where there's a break. I forget how she expresses it, but EMDR finds that. That's why she explains why she gives you the 3 things that you would want, and you can, if you take her experience by heart. And as a trauma-informed, somatic-informed person, everything she said is like, yes, spot on, because the looping is what I've noticed. People with patterns that don't take seriously doing trauma therapy, but they don't find good trauma therapists either, because they find the ones who want to blah, 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 their mouth away. So they don't find somebody who's a somatic experiencing trademark, but basically specialized, or at least specializes in somatics, so knows about somatics, the importance, and that 80% of the memory is here. When it comes up and it floods here, your left needs to be able to stay calm, which means you, and that's the part of why when Patrick Tian says you, in the Reiki, works your energy field, great, make you feel better, but not going to help when you're triggered. Triggered is your awareness, doing work with somebody, talking, journaling. It's a number of things, but obviously here's the number one thing. Your motivation to get out of the dysregulated, dysfunctional pattern that, by the way, is not just about your not ability to self-regulate. Because see, when your brain's not fully integrated, let's go back, EMDR, finding where there's a lack of integration. And then, okay, the working with child parts is the second one, she says, or the IFS model, because that's when you're working with the part that is not integrated. And then somatics, because that helps you to re-regulate your nervous system, and it all works together. So a non-integrated brain leads to a person who's not able to self-regulate their nervous system because there are parts that are not integrated. A childhood trauma survivor, a person who does not even have awareness, and they don't have to have big T's, small T, all of these aspects. So right here, a person should, in my opinion, I am a securely attached person. I've been able to process all of my charge states. I'm here speaking to you for a reason. I have panic attacks that don't create. No, I easily learned how to navigate my window of welcome to emotions, but I'm also a mystic. So here's where my awareness of all, but I've stayed grounded. In fact, the one thing I consistently did as I began my journey was maintain the awareness of my health, my blood work, all of it, my nerves, everything, my speech. Am I grounded? Do I want to see people? Yes, I love people. And this is the one thing 4D doesn't do. They say, oh, you're going to isolate yourself when you go through a spirituality awakening. You know how many people actually are thinking that they lose people because of those statements, which, by the way, no, if you're healing, you want to be around more people, not less. If you're getting into shutdown mode, you are actually allowing what is a shame cycle to keep you isolated, which is not your mammalian heritage. But if you're suffering when you're creating relationships, because I've seen people say, oh, it's your duty to take care of my self-regulation. No, that's called projection. It's your pattern, not mine. Okay, and so in many different ways, what I've noticed, the people who take seriously are people like the lady who says, here's what I wish I would have known. And she shares it to help people know, hey, here's what you want. Oh, and by the way, she says, look for a good therapist. Patrick Tiahan spells out the same thing. And they all, not only it's because of the awareness of what it means to work through your experience. You are reclaiming an identity you never had because you're going back to day one, if you will, of your body, and you're not going to do it snap and done. Trauma is relational, and it's usually relational abuse and neglect, which means your brain, back to the brain, thank you, Daniel Siegel, your corpus callosum is compromised in its growth, so your left and right mode don't connect as easily because the corpus callosum connects them. When your right mode stuff comes up and you don't know how to handle your emotions, it's called I'm triggered, reacting. You're going to be in your biological rudeness. Thank you, polyvagal theory, Stephen Porges. Okay, your hippocampus is compromised in its growth. That's where your memory center is, and you're going to create stories in your brain. I've seen people. I recently shared a story on the podcast. And on that note, they create actual villain stories with people they know that don't exist in earth or in air because their nervous system is freaking out. This is a DID individual who has very complex childhood trauma, knows of it, doesn't go to therapy, but conducts a highly functioning life, although they have a pattern that involves drinking and other stuff, which I won't mention. But the point is they are happy, they're out, they're outgoing, all of it, they're healthy, everything. So in their mind, they don't need anything, even though they've noticed their loop, their dysfunctional codependent type relationships. And on that note, as I shared with them information, they seemed, yes, interested, but not like, oh, wow, you know what, I'm going to go reclaim my entirety. So that's what I see. I see people who actually, light shadow work. Here, today is my shadow time. I'm going to be an asshole about things. No, you want to work to get your window of welcome. That's the self-regulation part. Okay, so then your prefrontal cortex is compromised in its growth, and the prefrontal cortex connects the higher, I forget what, and the social system and your body. So all of your areas that, by the way, are compromised. Here's why mindfulness and compassionate interventions work, because they help to grow all of that. Oh, and the connectome. Interconnected connectome is how integrated your brain is. And the connectome is what helps to integrate and connect the parts. So all these pieces of information, I've seen them shared in 4D community too, but they keep talking to you about your divinity, and they keep talking to you about the sky and source. And it's great to have the stories, but again, you're a person. So to get childhood trauma on track for those who have it, what I wanted to share with this reading, it's a perspective, a big shift of perspective on knowing the self-sabotage is not self-sabotage, but it's an unworthiness, shame, defectiveness button that you got from home, which is why every time you think of being able to create something solid, you will be afraid of repeating the past. Once you're clear, though, that the decision to leave all that emotionally doesn't serve you, which includes the pattern, and then you're motivated, how are you going to be motivated? You need people that trust you, even when you fuck up. You need the securely attached, integrated brain, people like myself and others, those who have healed and those who are not in the sense of childhood trauma, that can say, I have space for you because you're beautiful the way you are, and you can mimic whatever you want, but you can also embody it, and I can help you. Because relational trauma, again, it's relational. We need relationships to put into practice all the things that you get to do in the therapy seat with the therapist. Tune in for more and be kind.